Hello and welcome to Football League World TV. I am Billy Mulley, reporter at Football League World. Today I'm joined by Dylan Bhundia, Ian Robertson for our Luton Town Takeover show. Dylan, I'll come to you first. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing well, thank you. And Ian, how are you?
Yeah, good. Just about recovered from Saturday.
Yes. We'll get into Saturday because it was quite an eventful day at Kenilworth Road. And as said before, today we will be focusing on the Hatters, who sit 13th in the table for our Luton Town Takeover show. First of all, we're going to get straight into it. We're going to go back to the very start and look about the thoughts coming into the season. To you first with this, what were your initial thoughts coming into the season? As it was another championship season, it's our third successive one. Last season was consolidation. So what were your thoughts and expectations going into the new campaign?
It was a lot of positivity. I think we'd recruited really well. We'd brought in a lot of young players, but also a lot of new players as well. So it was going to always take time. But I think because of the amount that we recruited compared to the rest of the championship, everyone was very excited, and I think that's the kind of word for me is excitement. Just because of guys like Mendes Gomez and Onyia Dinmah, these really exciting players who we can develop over the next few years. So I was very optimistic and very excited coming into the season.
And with it being Luton's third successive season, it was 19th place finish, which ended in sort of a relegation scrap. It was followed by a 12th place finish. Dylan, were you thinking that to improve, Luton need to improve on the position on the table, or because there were so many new faces coming in, it was about adjusting to the new faces?
It was going to be difficult because when you lose a player like Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall over the summer, who is so integral to everything that you do, it's going to be very tricky to match what you're doing from the last season. And when you bring in a lot of new faces, a lot of inexperienced faces, again, it's going to take time to gel because we've had a very strong core of players over a very long period of time. And suddenly we realize, right, we need to mix it up now. We need to get some fresh faces in. So I think, it was always going to be difficult to match what we did last season. However, what the steps we took over the summer and the steps we're taking now is all about the next 3 to 4, 5 years or so. Trying to consolidate, trying to get the age of the squad, the average age of the squad down, and get players in who we can add value to and develop. So this season it was always going to be difficult to match what we're going to do. There's no reason why we can't, but it's a challenge. But I think now it's all about consolidating. It's all about the medium to long term for the football club.
And it was an early recruitment drive, and that's what we're going to go into next. And Ian, we'll come to you with this one because Luton added 9 players in the summer. As I said before, it was quite an early drive to recruit a few players, and then there was perhaps a little bit of doubt whether we would be able to recruit a late midfielder. There was talk from Jones, there was talk in the programme. So what did you make of this early business?
I think it's a great continuation of our recruitment over the last 5-6 years, really. Not only the players we've added, but the loans we sent out like Osho and Kyoso, both come in and played a part. But I think they've obviously done the groundwork early last season. They had their targets in mind and they managed to get them early. Some of them a little bit later. I heard Muskway was going to go to Barnsley apparently, and we ended up getting him at the last minute. I think the whole ethos around it, making it more athletic this season, is certainly, reached the target of that. I think, like Dylan says, it's going to take time for them to gel. We've had a little bit of a disjointed start to the season in terms of our injuries and illnesses with some of the new recruits. I've kind of set a target in mind of 10 games and see where they are after that. See if they had time to gel, but it's going to take a little bit longer. Like Dylan said, I think that it's going to be a challenge to replicate what we did last year. However, we've definitely got it in us to do it. and maybe even a little bit more if we hadn't had that disjointed start to the season. So I just think that, if we can start getting them back fit, getting the personnel in that we need to start first, the first full team, we can start gelling and moving forward. But it's going to take time. We've got to be patient with it. There's a lot of inexperienced Championship players that we've signed. We've also signed some experienced ones in Lansbury, who's actually shown a real good mentality since he's come in. He's shown a bit of mettle and actually brought the team together, I think, when we've had these injuries. So overall, it's been a really, really good recruitment drive, I think.
And Luton Town fans, we want to hear from you today. So if you have any questions for Dylan, Ian, or just general questions that you want to post in, let's hear from you. We'll go on to the Swansea game, which was a very eventful game at Kenworth Road on Saturday. So Luton Town found themselves 3-0 up against Swansea at half-time, playing exceptionally well. And then the unbelievable happened, really, and Swansea pegged them back, and it ended up 3-3. So going back to that first half, Dylan, what did you make of how Luton started that game, and could you see any sign of Swansea getting back into it?
No, I mean, that first half was absolutely fantastic. Swansea had more of the ball than us, but you look at the areas that they had the ball, they didn't threaten us. It was all around the back in very tight spaces. The intensity of what we did was top notch, but again, just as important as the intensity was the setup, the way we pressed them, the intelligence with which we pressed them to force them into certain areas where we could win the ball, or we made sure that they couldn't play around us, and when they tried to play through us, we closed them. And so no, at the end of the first half, you're 3-0 up, in total control of the game. You're controlling the game out of possession, which is something that we do really well a lot of the time. There was absolutely no sign of what was to come in the second half, from what I saw in the first half.
And then Dylan, we'll stick with you because, as you say there, you didn't see it coming, but there were 3 goals conceded, and ultimately Luton drew the game 3-3. So what do you feel went wrong?
Well, there was obviously a noticeable drop in the physical levels. 3-game week, lots of injuries, limited power options off the bench in the likes of Campbell, Muskway, Onyedinma. If you've got those guys starting or coming off the bench, if those guys are starting and then you've got others coming off the bench like your Cornicks, your Berries, that has a massive impact in terms of your ability to get territory, and to control the game out of possession. There were some changes as well where we let Matt Grimes have the ball, because their right centre-back, Ryan Bennett, was playing really high and wide. So Pelly Ruddock had to slide across. Then we had to put Berry in. Instead of him going really high on Matt Grimes, he was still playing a bit deeper. That allowed Matt Grimes to dictate. So again, we kind of dropped off from a tactical point of view. And then I think the game just slipped away from us. And then when you haven't got those options who can really affect the game in the last 20 minutes, when you need them most, it's very difficult to then wrestle control. So rather than trying to wrestle control, we just stuck everyone behind the ball because we didn't feel like we could get control back. But again, so a difficult day, and you can't put it down to one thing. There's lots of things going on, but I think as Luton fans, we can take that first 45 minutes and a lot of the other performances this season, most of the other performances this season, and be very positive about what's going on, because there's a lot of good things going on at the minute.
Exactly that. And when the final whistle sounded, it means now that Luton have drawn their last 4 games, 5 games without a victory. We're going to discuss next about what that might actually mean. So Ian, how do Luton find that winning formula again? And is there any reason to be concerned at the early stages of this season?
Absolutely not. No, don't think so. I think we just need to be patient. The early signs are there. We have, like I said earlier, we have been more athletic. We look very good up front when we take our chances like we did on Saturday. We look to have a little bit more fresh impetus with Berry coming back into the team as well, who scored 3 and 3 now. So I think that the signs are there. Nothing to be worried about, really. I think how well we've done it, actually competing in a lot of the games when we have had players missing, I think says a lot. I think that the next 5 or 6 games, if we can get everyone back fit, win 2 or 3 of them, draw a couple, we'll be in a good position. I've seen nothing that concerns me to think that we're going to be in a situation. I think Nathan Jones said the same the other day in his post-match. Some of the performances have been good, but the fitness levels 3 and 3 in 3 games in 1 week, it did take its toll, I think, and you saw that on Saturday. The fact that we're not losing and we're hard to beat again is always a good foundation. I think we just need to be patient, get the players back that we need to get back, and the ones that are filling in have done a really good job. You can't negate that. They've done a really good job. Berry, Lansbury, Osho filling in pretty much all over the place. So nothing to be concerned about. I'm pretty confident we'll turn it around. Yeah.
As Ian alluded to, their injuries have been a concern at Kenilworth Road, and one player that has returned back is Luke Berry, and we'll discuss him next. So Dylan, Luke Berry is a player that's been at Luton since the League 2 days. Now he's come back into contention, scored 3 and 3, and looks a very good player once again. What are your thoughts on him so far?
Oh, he's always been a good player. I mean, what Luke Berry does is, well, he has the basics. His fitness levels are through the roof, which in the Championship you need. The intelligence with which he presses, the way he always just applies himself in every single action everywhere. Again, you need that in the Championship. But then what he's always done at every level, League 2, League 1, Championship, is that intelligence to find little pockets of space around the box to receive, but then attacking, as we've seen with his 2 goals against Blackburn and then his goal against Swansea at the weekend, is that he understands how to attack the box and how to create space between him and the defender when he's making those late runs into the box. And that's such a weapon. When we're a team that you could argue at points lacks a little bit of cutting edge, and sometimes we seem to be talking about we need that final touch. Luke Berry is someone who has that final touch, and he's a massive asset for the squad. And for me, there was no way that we should or could have let him go over the summer, because he's a real asset to our squad.
There was also, you say there about Luke Berry, there was talk about him potentially leaving during the summer. Another player that was also linked with a Championship and League 1 moves was Gabriel Osho, and we'll speak about him next. You've mentioned him briefly there, Ian, about Gabriel Osho and his versatility. So how important has he been early this season, and what do you make of his contribution so far?
I think he's filled in 3 roles so far this season in the limited amount of games that we've had. He's shown real great prospect, but I think ideally where I see him is a CDM role. He's just shown real great maturity and growing into that role so quickly after a limited amount of performances in pre-season there. I think we spoke earlier before we went live that sometimes he takes a little bit longer to release the ball. I'd like to see that a bit better, but he's so quick and he's so confident in going forward in that role. He creates more room for everybody else. His tackling is just, in terms of his actual tackling, he's fantastic. I think we've got a real young prospect on our hands with him. I think he'll really be a mainstay in the squad moving forward this season and the next couple, I think.
And with Osho, because he's now been trusted in a variety of roles, left wing back on Saturday, also centre back, which most would have assumed would be his position, but it's defensive midfield where he's impressed. So do you think that's something that will continue now into his career?
I hope so. I think the agreement is between Jones and him is that's his preferred position now, although he can use him as a centre backing if he needs to change tactics mid-game as well. So I think that's going to be his role. I hope so anyway. he just seems so much more confident, and the rest of the team around him seem more confident in that ball. I think there's a lot of growing to do in that position. There's a lot to learn. I think he said he's been doing a bit of learning and watching people that play that position online over the last couple of months since he knew he was going to be in that role. I think he's grown quickly already. I think there's a lot more to come from him. I think he could be a real asset, a real financial asset for us as well moving forward.
And the third player that we'll take a focus on is the perhaps villain of the weekend, and that is Henry Lansbury. So Henry Lansbury caught the headlines pretty much on the weekend after an incident between him and Ryan Manning, but we won't go too much into that because I know everybody has their opinions on it, but we'll go straight to his influence on the Luton Town team. Dylan, how impressed have you been with him?
So impressed. He's exactly what we needed in terms of, I know we mentioned earlier, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was left. He was our progressor. He's our player who creates, who gets the ball forwards into people's feet, gives us that quality. And we needed to find someone who could replace that to an extent. And Henry Lansbury has so far been magnificent. His range of passing, the way he's something that we don't have in the squad, that he is the only one really that I would see as that real creator, that real player who sits deep and can dictate and control the game. The most important thing with him is keeping him fit, because he's not played many games over the last 4 years. He's had a few loans. Last season he was at Bristol City. But so that's the most important thing with him. But I think also he's shown again, as we saw on Saturday, the real aggressive side to him. He wins his battles. He's a good presence to have on the pitch when we've got a lot of young players who are growing and getting used to the level. Having Henry Lansbury on the pitch with them is really important, and so far he's been an excellent signing for us.
We're going to talk a little bit now about two players that have perhaps been on the fringe side of things so far. Carlos Mendes-Gomez and Dion Pereira do look like very good young professionals at Luton Town. But Ian, do you think that they will see much game time this season? Is it about throwing them in enough this season so that they can perhaps emerge as a regular next season?
Yeah, I think so. It's all about timing, I think. It's difficult early season because you want to start to get a good start to the season and have a good foundation. And I think both Pereira and Mendes-Gomez do need to grow a little bit. We've seen good things from Pereira. I think for me, maybe he's even a little bit ahead of Mendes-Gomez at the moment. For me, Mendes-Gomez, he's fantastic. There's a lot of prospect there for him, but his strength on the ball isn't as good as what Onyedinma's is, for example. So I think that needs to improve, and that will grow. I'm sure the training sessions are very extensive, so he will grow with that. But I think he's going to be one that we see probably the latter part of this season and early next more than anything. I'm really glad we kept Pereira though. I think he's shown in training and in games when he's come on, or when we've seen him in the in the under-21s, he's done really, really well. I think he's going to grow into a player. The only thing that concerns me is he going to get that chance. Is he going to get that, or is he going to be one that goes out on loan on January if he doesn't get any playing time?
We've spoken about the players that have impressed so far, who can potentially impress, but we're going to go on to look at the sort of players on the fringe side of things that could play an important role in what remains of the season. So Dylan, who do you see in the current Luton Town squad who perhaps haven't had their chance yet that you could see be playing an integral role in what remains of this championship season?
Probably Muskway, to be honest. He's been in and out. He started against Barnsley, but I can't remember off the top of my head any other games that he started. I'm probably wrong with that, but he's not played that much. And I think for me, out of all of our summer signings, he is the one who will go the furthest in football in general. I think he fits everything that we like in terms of what we needed. Was last season we played Ryan Tunnicliffe and Pelly Ruddock sometimes as our number 10, who was looking to really be aggressive in the final third, get on second balls. They're not natural number 10s, obviously, and Admiral Muskway is a natural number 10. hopefully will transition into playing as a striker at some point. But what he brings is real intelligent movement in the final third, a bit like Luke Berry, but with a real athletic presence as well. He's a powerful runner. His fitness levels are good. And he hasn't had the goals to show for it. He was on loan at Wycombe last season. I think he scored 3 in the second half of the season. So he doesn't have the goals to show for it, but all of the tools are there, all of the foundations are there for him to be a really intelligent, attacker of the box and working off a centre forward. That's what he did really well at Wycombe with Uche Piezu, and now he can do the same with Elijah Adebayo. He's really, really intelligent with how he works off a centre forward. So for me, he hasn't had much of an impact so far for a range of reasons. But as the season goes on, I can definitely see him, if we can keep him fit, having a real big impact on the Luton team.
And Ian, is that an opinion you share, or is there any other particular players that you'll be keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's one I'd like to see more. I read your analysis on him, Dylan. It was, really good in-depth analysis on him, and I think again, what Dylan said. He's got a lot of scope to move on. I'd like to see him in that number 10 role, but him and Berry swapping over in that, either him being on the bench or vice versa. I think when we talk about people we'd like to have seen, I think I would have liked to have kept Kyoso, if I'm honest, and seen a little bit more of him this season. He scored at the weekend for MK Dons, didn't he? I'd like to have given him a little bit more opportunity, especially with the injuries that we've had, and just seeing if he could grow a little bit more in a physical league. I don't know how much he's going to get from the physicality in League One. He'll get a lot from the tactics from MK, but I'd like to have seen him this season, I think. But I mirror what he says about Muskway. I think he's going to be a good prospect. Is he injured at the moment, I think? He's got a slight injury. Yeah. So I don't know how long he's out for, but it'd be great to see him come back.
Definitely. And Luton Town fans, we do want to hear from you if you agree with the comments you've heard so far, or if you want to post someone else that you think that has impressed so far, or who could be important in the next few games, or even going on to the rest of the season. We'll go on to Saturday's clash, which is against Bournemouth next. So the Hatters travel to the Vitality Stadium at the weekend to face top of the league Bournemouth. Seems a daunting task when read like that, but could Luton get something out of the game, Dylan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we've shown that we can, when we're at our best, we are a dangerous team who can compete with anyone. Now, obviously, Bournemouth have a lot of quality. Solanke, Brooks, the whole team is Premier League, so it's going to be very difficult. But I think that we are good enough to beat any team in this division. But what we've seen so far is slightly inconsistent performances, moments of the game where we just drop off or so on, and that's fine, because this is a young group who are just coming through, who are gelling, a lot of fresh faces. So yeah, I think we can. It'd be very, very difficult because Bournemouth are excellent, but I think on our day we can beat anyone.
And we'll just take it back a little bit because we've got a couple of questions in. First one from Dan Robbins, which says, cracking show, guys. What do you think Elijah Adebayo's ceiling is? Can you see him becoming a top championship striker? And I'll ask that to you, Ian.
For sure, yeah. I mean, you look at his movement off the ball, the positions he gets in. He's fantastic. I mean, I think the ceiling is quite large with him. I think we haven't seen quite enough of him to say exactly how much, whether it's beyond the championship or not. But then you look at his goal ratio and how quickly he adapted last season. And I think someone said to me the other day, he needs a couple of goals on Saturday against Swansea, and he got them. But he was our best player on the pitch, I thought, on Saturday. He just requires a little bit of confidence, and we give him service. He'll score them all day long. He's always at the back post, and I don't know how the other teams don't see it. It's crazy. He's always in that position, tucking them away. Normally with his head, but on Saturday he tucked it away nicely. And did you see the interview with him on just post-match on Saturday about his penalties? He's been practicing them every day, and tells the keeper where he's going to make sure he slams it in. So even though they're diving the right way, he still slams it in, which is it's a good focus to have. It's good confidence moving forward for him. But yeah, I think there's bright things to come from it.
And Dylan, I'll come to you with this second question. It's from Earl Holmes, and he says, "What have you made of Luton post James Collins? Has his absence been more or less difficult than you had imagined?"
I think it's been okay because we've had Elijah Adebayo. Now, in January, if we hadn't signed Elijah Adebayo and then we'd lost James Collins, then I think the answer would be very different. I think we'd have struggled a lot. But I think Elijah having that second half of the season to come in, play in the Championship, we gave him a lot of minutes. I think he played more than Collins in the second half of the season. I think it's been okay. I think the biggest thing this season has been set pieces. James Collins was so important from set pieces. We'd have him at the front post in the edge of the 6-yard box, Bradley in the middle, and Potts at the back. And those three for a very long time were absolutely fantastic from defending corners. And obviously this season we've conceded a few from corners. And Elijah, I think he got beaten against Birmingham by Mark Roberts to the ball. So to be honest, I think we've coped well with Elijah and Cameron Jerome coming in, and Muskway as well, and Cornick's obviously always been there. I think the biggest thing has just been defending corners more than anything, but we're looking good. We're looking good, and I think that 6 months for Elijah, the back end of last season, was really important in terms of cushioning that blow.
And then going back on to the Bournemouth game, can I get a score prediction from you both, starting with Ian?
It depends on the team we put out. I think it's going to be quite an expansive game, so I think I'm probably going to go with 2-2. Is my prediction. And
Dylan, what about you?
I don't like being negative, but I think Bournemouth will just about edge us. So I think 2-1 Bournemouth, but we'll give them a right game, just because they have so many good players.
Well, it will certainly be a good contest at the Vitality Stadium. And Bournemouth, as we say, are top of the league. Luton travelling there after 5 games without a win. But the Hatters will be confident, as they always are. Well, that just about sums up what we've got for you today. I want to thank you both for joining me for this Luton Town Takeover show here at Football League World. And if you want to drop both of the guys a follow, Dylan's handle is at Dylan_Bhundia, with a lot of analytical work going on his Twitter page and his website. Also, Ian runs the at We Are Luton Town Twitter page, who post a wide range of great content, all to do with Luton Town. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.